For avoidant men, juggling multiple women isn't always about ego. It's about control. The more options he has, the less powerless he feels. Deep down, he fears dependence. Not because he doesn't want love, but because love once meant pain. So, he keeps every woman slightly uncertain, slightly hopeful, slightly waiting. He calls it freedom. But the irony is the more he tries to stay in control, the more control his emptiness has over him. And the reason why I talk about emptiness is because maintaining multiple shallow connections prevents him from experiencing the depth that would actually fill the void he's running from. So instead of one relationship that challenges him to grow, he creates a system where no one gets close enough to expose his fear of inadequacy, leaving him surrounded by people but fundamentally alone. This is the hidden tragedy of the avoidant rotation strategy. He thinks he's protecting himself from pain, but he's actually guaranteeing his own isolation. Every woman he keeps at arm's length, every connection he maintains at surface level, every heart he keeps just engaged enough. It's all evidence of the emptiness he's desperately trying to avoid feeling. The women caught in his rotation often blame themselves. They think if they were prettier, more interesting, less needy, more patient, he'd choose them. But the truth is, he's not looking to choose anyone. He's looking to avoid choosing because choosing means vulnerability and vulnerability means risk. That's why understanding the signs that you're in rotation isn't about judgment or revenge. It's about protecting yourself from investing in someone who's deliberately maintaining a system where real intimacy is impossible. Hi, I'm Gabriel Hart from My Daily Love, and in this video we'll talk about the 5 signs an avoidant man is keeping multiple women on rotation. And once you recognize these patterns, you'll not only be able to spot them early before you're deeply invested, but you'll also be able to make clear decisions about whether to stay or walk away without second-guessing yourself. Sign number 1, emotional availability on a timer. The most revealing sign that you're in rotation is when he connects deeply, then disappears right when the emotional temperature rises because the cycle of warmth and withdrawal keeps you uncertain. And that uncertainty feeds his control, with the red flag being that he only opens up when you pull back. Think of it like a thermostat that's been set to prevent the room from ever getting truly warm. The moment the temperature rises and real intimacy develops, the system kicks in to cool things down. That's his emotional regulation pattern. But with multiple women, it's strategic. He'll have an amazing date where he opens up, shares vulnerably, makes you feel like you're finally breaking through his walls. The chemistry is undeniable. The connection feels real. You leave thinking, this is it, we're finally getting somewhere. Then silence. Days pass. Maybe a week. No explanation. No check-in. Just sudden, complete withdrawal right after the moment of deepest connection. When he finally resurfaces, he acts like nothing happened. Like the gap in communication was completely normal. This cycle keeps you in a state of intermittent reinforcement. The most addictive psychological pattern that exists. The deep connection creates the high. The sudden withdrawal creates the crash. Your brain becomes obsessed with getting back to the high, which makes you more invested, more hopeful, more willing to accept breadcrumbs. But here's what you need to understand. If he's doing this with you, he's likely doing it with others. The withdrawal after intimacy isn't just about his fear. It's about his rotation schedule. He got close to you. Now he needs to check in with his other options, maintain those connections, keep everyone balanced. The red flag that confirms rotation is this: he only opens up when you pull back. The moment you create distance or seem less available, suddenly he's vulnerable again. Suddenly he's sharing. Suddenly he's pursuing. But the moment you lean in and reciprocate that intimacy, he withdraws again. This isn't organic emotional pacing. This is strategic control. He's using your pulling back as his cue to re-engage just enough to keep you hooked, then withdrawing again, before you can get too close. It's a pattern, and patterns reveal intention. Sign number 2, breadcrumb communication. Here's what most women don't realize about breadcrumb communication. He checks in just enough to stay relevant. A late-night text, a random emoji, a sudden miss you. Because these micro-interactions are designed to reset your attachment while keeping his options open. And you can spot it when his messages keep you confused more than connected, proving you're not his priority. You're his placeholder. Think of breadcrumbs like little pins dropped on a map. Each one marks his territory, reminds you he exists, keeps you from moving on, but none of them create an actual path forward. They're not leading anywhere. They're just maintaining presence. The breadcrumb text comes late at night, thinking about you. It's vague, enough to mean nothing, but personal, enough to feel like something. It arrives precisely when you are starting to forget about him, starting to move on, starting to invest energy elsewhere. Or it's the random emoji with no context, or the how's your day that leads nowhere, because he doesn't actually engage with your response. Or the sudden I miss you that isn't followed by plans to actually see you, or the meme that's just intimate, enough to feel like inside joke territory. Each breadcrumb resets your attachment. You are moving on, getting over him, redirecting your energy. Then, his name lights up your phone and suddenly all that progress evaporates. You're back to thinking about him, hoping for more, waiting for the real connection to develop. But the real connection never develops because that's not the point. The point is maintenance. He's checking in with you the same way he's checking in with the others. Just enough contact to keep you warm, not enough to actually build anything substantial. You can spot breadcrumb rotation by the pattern. His messages keep you confused more than connected. You're never quite sure where you stand. Are you dating? Are you friends? Is this going somewhere? The breadcrumbs create just enough engagement to prevent clarity while maintaining your hope. If you were his priority, his communication would create clarity and connection. You'd know where you stand. You'd feel secure. His messages would lead to plans, to depth, to progression. But if you're his placeholder, his communication creates confusion and uncertainty, which is exactly what he needs to keep you waiting while he maintains his other options. Sign number 3, mismatched energy and access. While you might think inconsistency is just his personality, the truth is he's affectionate and available when it suits him, but protective of his time and routine. Otherwise, because he controls when intimacy happens and when it pauses, and you can spot rotation when you always have to adapt to his rhythm, proving you're in a rotation you didn't agree to. Think of it like a restaurant that's only open at random hours without posting a schedule. You never know when you can actually access it. You have to constantly check if it's open, adjust your plans around its availability, and accept that you can't plan anything in advance. When he wants connection, he's Alan. He texts frequently, makes plans, shows up, is affectionate, gives you attention. You feel like you're in a real relationship. But this only happens on his schedule according to his availability when it fits his needs. Then suddenly he's busy, unavailable. His routine is sacred. He can't make plans because he has so much going on. He needs space to focus on himself. And you're left waiting, wondering when he'll be available again, adapting your life to his rhythm. The mismatch is the sign. Real relationships involve mutual accommodation. Both people adjust their schedules. Both people make time. Both people prioritize the connection. But in a rotation situation, the adaptation only goes one direction. You're always the one adjusting, waiting, accommodating. He controls when intimacy happens and when it pauses. You don't get a say. You don't get to request time together and have it honored. You can't count on him for plans because he only shows up when his rotation allows for it, when he's not managing his other connections, when those relationships are in their withdrawal phase. From what I've seen, this mismatched energy is one of the clearest signs of rotation because genuine interest creates mutual investment. If someone truly wants to build something with you, they make consistent time. They don't disappear for days or weeks, then expect you to be available when they resurface. If you're always adapting to his rhythm, always available on his terms, always waiting for his next window of availability, you're not in a mutual relationship. You're in a rotation you didn't agree to, being slotted in when it's convenient for him while he maintains the same pattern with others. But let's be honest, you might be seeing these signs and wondering if you're just being paranoid or if there's actually something wrong because he can be so convincing when he explains his behavior. The real challenge is that avoidant men who maintain rotations are often skilled at making their behavior sound reasonable. I'm just busy with work. I need to focus on my mental health. I don't like feeling pressured. When what they're actually doing is maintaining strategic vagueness so they can keep multiple women engaged without commitment. What you need is the ability to see through not just the behavioral signs, but the verbal patterns he uses to explain away those behaviors and keep you from questioning the dynamic. Without this deeper understanding, you might keep accepting his explanations, even as the evidence of rotation becomes obvious because he's learned exactly what to say to make you doubt your own perceptions. That's why we created How to Spot His Lies Before They Hurt You. When you understand this stack, you'll finally be able to distinguish between a man who's genuinely navigating his avoidant tendencies while building toward commitment and one who's using psychology language to justify keeping you as one of several options. So, please check the link in the description. This could be the moment you finally stop accepting explanations that don't match behaviors and start trusting what you're actually observing. Sign number 4, avoidance of emotional specificity. What if the clearest sign of rotation is that he keeps conversations vague, talking about feelings in general, but never clearly defining yours together? Because this lack of clarity protects his flexibility and his ability to do the same with others, and you can spot it when you ask for clarity and he says, "Why label things?" Which isn't calmness, it's deflection. Think of it like someone describing their job in such vague terms that you can never quite figure out what they actually do. I work with people, or I'm in business. Technically true statements that communicate nothing specific. That's how he talks about your relationship. He'll say things like, "I really care about you," but won't define what that care means or where it's headed. He'll say, "This is special," but won't specify what makes it special or what he plans to do with that specialness. He'll say, "I'm not seeing anyone else seriously." Notice the words, seriously doing heavy lifting there. This vagueness is strategic. If he never defines what you are together, he can't be held accountable to it. If there's no clarity, there are no expectations. If there are no expectations, there's no way to fail them or be called out for not meeting them. When you push for specificity, what are we? Or are we exclusive? Or where is this going? He deflects with philosophical questions. Why do we need labels? Or can't we just enjoy what we have? Or why rush to define things? These deflections sound evolved, like he's above the need for traditional relationship structures. But that's not calmness or emotional maturity. That's strategic ambiguity that protects his ability to maintain multiple connections without technically lying to anyone. If he's keeping things vague with you, he's keeping them vague with others, too. The lack of definition means he can be dating multiple people without being a cheater because he never committed to anyone. The emotional vagueness means he can have deep connections with multiple women without owing exclusivity to any of them. The spotted early moment is when you realize that every conversation about the relationship feels like trying to nail jelly to a wall. You can never quite get a straight answer. He's always slightly evasive, always redirecting, always reframing your very reasonable questions as pressure or neediness. But here's what most women struggle with when an avoidant man deflects their need for clarity. They don't know how to push for definition without sounding desperate, needy, or like they're trying to trap him. So, they either accept vagueness indefinitely or they demand answers in ways that make him retreat even further. The challenge isn't just asking for clarity. It's asking in a way that doesn't trigger his "she's trying to control me" defense while also not abandoning your legitimate need to know where you stand. Most women either stay silent about their confusion, hoping he'll eventually volunteer clarity on his own, which he never does, or they have the talk with so much anxiety and emotion that he experiences it as pressure and responds with more deflection or distance. Understanding how to request clarity without triggering avoidant defenses while maintaining your own boundaries around vagueness is crucial, because this is how you distinguish between a man who's genuinely taking his time and one who's deliberately keeping things undefined so he can maintain multiple options. The difference between women who successfully get clarity from avoidant men and those who just get more word salad often comes down to specific framing techniques that communicate your needs as information gathering rather than commitment demanding. Comment, deflection, and I'll reveal the 3 ways to ask for clarity that get honest answers versus the 3 approaches that trigger more deflection, and the exact timeline for when his vagueness stops being taking it slow and starts being keeping you as an option. Sign number 5, repetition without growth. The final and most definitive sign is repetition without growth. He has patterns. The same story, the same excuse, the same distance after closeness. And you notice he doesn't learn from conflict. He just resets the cycle because the relationships overlap and lessons never sink in. And you can spot it when he doesn't reflect. He replaces. Think of it like a computer stuck in a boot loop. It starts up, encounters an error, shuts down, then starts up again exactly the same way, encountering the exact same error over and over. No learning, no adaptation, just repetition. You have a conversation about his disappearing act. He apologizes, explains, maybe even seems genuinely remorseful. He promises to communicate better, to be more consistent, to not withdraw like that again. You feel heard. You think things will change. Then weeks or months later, the exact same pattern repeats. Same withdrawal, same excuse, same apology, same promise to change, and you realize nothing he said during the last conversation actually integrated. He didn't learn, he didn't grow, he just reset the cycle. This lack of growth, despite repeated conflicts, is one of the clearest signs of rotation. Because when you're genuinely invested in one person, their feedback matters, their pain motivates change, their needs inspire reflection. But when you're maintaining multiple surface-level connections, no single person's feedback carries enough weight to catalyze real change. He doesn't reflect, he replaces. When one woman gets tired of the pattern and leaves, he has others who are earlier in their cycles, still hopeful, still believing his promises to change. He doesn't need to actually grow because there's always someone new who doesn't know his patterns yet. The relationships overlap, which means the lessons never sink in. By the time one woman is confronting him about his patterns, another woman is in the honeymoon phase, thinking she's special. By the time that second woman starts seeing the patterns, the first woman has already left and a third woman has entered the rotation. This constant cycling means he never has to face the full consequences of his behavior. He never has to sit with the pain of really hurting someone he loves, because he's already moved his attention to the next person who still thinks he's wonderful. From what I've seen, this repetition without growth is the most heartbreaking sign for women to recognize because it means all the conversations, all the vulnerability, all the hope that he would change, none of it mattered. He wasn't growing with you. He was using you as one station in a rotation that prevents him from ever having to grow at all. Once you understand the 5 signs an avoidant man is keeping multiple women on rotation, you realize that his emotional availability on a timer, breadcrumb, communication, mismatched energy and access, avoidance of emotional specificity, and repetition without growth aren't random behaviors. They're strategic patterns designed to maintain control while preventing real intimacy. You understand that you're not in a relationship. You're in a system where genuine connection is impossible by